Hello, everyone. Welcome
Hi.
to another Org Labs alignment call. This is the fourth one. Today, we're going to be focusing on our first sprint. We're going to finalize our sprint parameters and prepare for the first sprint, which starts on Monday. And we're going to first take a look at the lunar sprint cycles and try to work with them into our sprint cycle, this one. So Nori, please take it away. Tell us what you got.
Okay. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go there. All right. So this is something I've been mulling in my head for a little while now, a few weeks at least, on how to match sprints with the lunar cycle. So I started looking at the cycles of the moon. If you're not familiar, new moon kind of kicks things off, and then it goes into the waxing crescent first quarter, waxing gibbous full moon, waning gibbous third quarter, and waning crescent. So it kind of gives you a natural progression of the moon. And the big quote that I loved was, it's like a big progress bar in the sky. And I think I got this from the Regen network, because they work on a lunar schedule as well. And that kind of image where everyone can see where we are in a sprint just by looking outside all over the world, it's the same. It's kind of a cool concept. And then I just threw this DOC acronym up here, and this is how I remember what phase the moon is in. If it looks like a D, it's waxing. Full moon's obviously the full O, and then if it looks like a C, it's on the waning side. So you can see, because if you're like dyslexic like me, it's hard to know, like, is it waxing or waning just by looking at it. And then I looked at a couple of articles that just kind of gave me some of my ideas for the moon phases and what kind of energies they bring, I guess. So just looking at the sprint cycles, if you have a sprint that is 2 weeks long, that's 14 days, that's half a moon cycle. So if you have 2 sprints of 2 weeks, that's a full lunar cycle of 28 days, which I thought was a really cool thing that kind of matches. And then you will have 13 lunar cycles through the year, which means you have 26 sprints throughout the year. And just kind of looking at things, when you kick things off, a new moon is a good time to reflect and kind of set new intention. So that's kind of the last part of the second sprint. And that kind of kicks off the new one. And this is the time where you start new things. So you go into your sprint planning, and you really look at, and I put some notes here just talking about what waxing crescent is, and some of its correspondences. Like, this is symbolic time to get started on new intentions or goals, et cetera, et cetera. So that kind of matches like the beginning of a sprint. We're kind of setting forth, this is what we want to do. And then as you work through your waxing crescent, you get to a point ish, a weekend, where you're at your waxing half moon. That's kind of just a checkpoint. And then you work through the second week until you get to the full moon. And the full moon is really like, that's your first big demo day. This is what we did. And this is where you really gather up that energy, you do your sprint reflection, you celebrate. And then you go into the second sprint week, where you start hitting the waning gibbous moon. And this is really, it talks about, on the way to our goals and intentions, we will always forced to let go of or give up something in order to fulfill that goal. So this is a good time to adjust, unblock, and reset what your initial start new things is, and kind of course adjust. And then you do a new sprint planning with that new plan. And then you go through the exact same kind of sprint cadence, but the energy is a little bit different. So as you hit the waning half moon, this is about the point where you start to wrap things up. And then when you get to the last week, it's all about completion and reflection. So you're completing stuff through here and getting it done. I just threw this in. This might be a good time to do a way of counsel type community meeting to just talk about what came up and anything that needs to be discussed. And then you do a final demo and sprint reflection and celebration. And then out of this and maybe the way of counsel, you'll have all this new intention for the next lunar cycle. And really the cycles are to help us get into a rhythm, and sprints help us get into a rhythm. And what better rhythm than a natural one where the sky kind of shows you this 28-day rhythm that it goes through very visually. Yeah, so those are the highlights. And just the way the sprints are broken down, it always starts with sprint planning, where you have a full backlog, and the planning is just setting the intention. What's our themes? What goals do we, high-level goals do we want to accomplish? And then we pick the stories that we think will achieve that goal. And then I just kind of arbitrarily put on Tuesdays is when we do story gathering. And this is the time where we gather new stories. If you're new to Agile, a story is short for user story, which is a small bundle of work that is gathered that is achievable in a 2-week period. So if we're setting a 2-week sprint, you want to make sure user stories can be finished in that period of time. And they're usually things that are done by one person. So that's kind of the granularity. You want to break things down so that a person can take a story and work on it and deliver it in that sprint period. And that's at the largest. One person, one whole sprint is a really big story. Ideally, a person should be able to do 2, 3, maybe not more than 5 stories a sprint. That's kind of a good load if you're working full-time on this. If you're a part-time contributor and can only put in a little bit, the story should be small enough that somebody like that should be able to complete that in 2 weeks as well. So that's kind of the sizing of this. Just very basically, stories look like a statement of a goal. So you have your why. So usually they're phrased as a user of Little Fish Actions, I would like, and then you have some kind of thing that you would like. And then after that, you have some kind of conditions of satisfaction. So that's kind of the what. So that would say, be able to easily upload proof of work, mint my NFT, whatever it is. And then the how is really open to the person taking the story and working through it. So, but the story itself should contain the what, the why, and the what. And then whoever takes it can decide how to do it. So that's kind of what a story is. And then I sprinkled some asynchronous stand-ups. This is really a time to come through and really just have a checkpoint where we as a community check in. Anybody who's committed to working in a sprint should participate in these, so that whenever we have an async stand-up, you talk about what you worked on since the last stand-up, what are you going to work on next, and then do you have any blockers? And we should really have some kind of convention. If we have a blocker board, any blocker that's on there should no longer be a blocker by the time the next stand-up comes. If a blocker is mentioned in 2 different stand-ups, that's kind of a pathology of the team, and we should really be jumping on that. That's kind of a sign that we're moving a little bit sideways. People should get concerned if that happens. So many teams have some kind of a blocker board or something that everybody looks at on a daily or regular basis, so that you can just make sure that you're helping people get unblocked if they are. So I just put those every couple of days throughout the sprint. And then week 2 looks very similar, but instead of sprint planning, we kick off with just a stand-up. We still have our story gathering. This happens every week, just so that we have a good backlog formed and we have good prioritization. And once we get into that cadence, usually story gathering can go pretty quickly because you already have a big backlog, and it's just modifying that or changing priorities based on upcoming stuff. And then the other thing that I threw in here was just picking a day for the community to have no meetings. So what this means is if you are an active contributor that's working on things, it's often difficult to break your day up by having to jump into meetings, lose context, having to reload it. So makers often find it good to have good focus blocks. And this is one way to help, is just have a no meeting day. And that doesn't mean you can't meet with people. It means that the team shouldn't schedule team meetings on this day, just so that people are more flexible to be able to really focus if they need to. And then the final part at the last day of the second week is demo. So everything you work on in a sprint should work towards some kind of a demoable result. And you want at the end of the 2 weeks to have something you can show. And that can be, if it's a UI UX thing, you can kind of demo how that works. If it's a piece of code, you can see that the tests are passing or that it's actually achieving what you set it out. If it's documentation, you can show the documentation. If it's something else, it should be, we should always be thinking about how can we demo our work and show that to the other team members as we go through our weeks. And then sprint reflection, you talk about what went well, opportunities for improvement, what can we do better for next time. And reflection should also be a time to celebrate, give appreciation and recognition. So that's a great fourth category to add in, but I called it out specifically here that we should be celebrating our wins, celebrating the community, celebrating what we're creating together, and get into that kind of cadence as well. So that's kind of, and then the sprint 2, week 1 and 2 are identical to that. It's just the flavor changes a little bit because of the waning moon, and the energies of that is more completing, reflecting, and winding things up. So there's a lot of high energy at the start. It peaks at the full moon. There's still energy through week 3 to work on stuff, but by week 4, we should expect people to be closing up and really wrapping up the initial kind of lunar intention that we set out at the beginning. Yeah, so that, in a nutshell, that's kind of at a high level what this is about and how I was thinking about it. I don't know if it's weird or crazy or if people like it, but I really wanted to see if we could explore how to match sprint cycles with natural lunar cycles. And this is something that came out. I was just playing with it last night, and yeah, I went way past my bedtime just kind of because I was so excited kind of putting these things out there.
So two sprints per full lunar cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 1 week or two 2 week sprints.
Correct. Yeah.
In one lunar cycle. Yeah. So that first sprint, like running up to the full moon, and then that second running down to the new moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I came a bit late. Is that moon literal, like half moon, like literally moon?
Yeah.
Thing?
Yeah.
That's so cool, you know. Like,
Moon, yeah.
and then it's so cool, like a werewolf, you know, like in a full moon we have.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
And because of the way it works, it might not map perfectly to Monday through Friday. I don't know if when the full moons happen, but yeah, the intent is the moon, and the actual moon in the sky is your progress bar of how the cycle's going.
Also, are there any days on which like the teams get to like sit and work together, as in not even like work together, but just like work in the company of others, like have like a social working situation in any of these?
Yeah, that can definitely happen at any time, I think. These are just kind of the mechanism bits of having a good groomed backlog, checking in, doing the proper planning and reflection. Those are kind of the cornerstones of Agile. Everything else is totally flexible. Like, yeah, if you want to hang out with people and work together, that's totally cool.
I love this idea, like just watching 28 days progress bar in the sky, and it works anywhere you're in the world. So even if you're traveling, doing the nomad thing, you can always look into the sky and catch up with what's going on. I just Googled
Actually,
lunar cycles are 29.5 days. So that's going to shift a little bit every month.
Yeah.
Actually, if you travel like a nomad, it would be much more beneficial. Like
Right.
we in the cities don't see the moon and so don't see its effect of lighting the sky in the night. But if you're a nomad, like you cannot ignore that.
you know, what is gonna be cool? We can promote this. Like little fishian calendar. I don't know, like the Gregorian calendar and stuff like that. That is like our thing. I'm gonna do like such a thing for myself, you know.
Yeah, we should have like that Batman signal. Like every time there's
Oh,
like a half moon, like little fish pops up in the air, and then all
oh,
of a
that's
sudden.
so cool.
Yeah. And
I
one
love the
of the other benefits is there's 12 months in the Gregorian calendar, but in lunar cycle, there's 13, which is cool because it's a Fibonacci number, and it's lucky number
So
13.
that's better, you know. We are always complaining if there was more time. So we are creating more time actually.
Yeah.
A whole month.
We have one more lunar month to play with every year. Yeah.
Nice. I think we can implement this. We can, I just checked, we're in the waning gibbous part of the cycle. So we have 1 week after Monday. So we can do like a short trial sprint next week and then get going with the full cycle.
Mhm.
How does that sound?
Sounds
That's
cool.
great.
Nice.
Just shout out to Newman. He starts some of his meetings by saying what phase the moon is in. And that got me going, we should use that for something, because that's kind of a cool thing. So that really got me interested in trying to figure this out.
yes. You
You
are
know,
welcome.
we need more things like this. Yeah. Yeah. It's, we need more creative things like this.
Newman, please let us know at the start of every meeting, because this is going to be a
I'm-
big thing now. Like we have to know this.
Exactly. And then it's sort of like it's as the Germans say, unser eins. It's like one of us, you know. It's kind of like, oh right,
Oh.
the little fish follow the moon, you know. And it is a natural cycle. It is a connection to the earth. It is something that you can, you know, watch and do throughout the world, you know. Yeah, it's really kind of fun. It's really kind of fun. And then
Yeah,
you
you
might
know.
start, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, you might start to notice like, oh, it does. It feels like we just had a full moon, you know, or it feels like we're sliding past the last quarter, which is the quarter moon after the full moon. Yeah, you may start to develop some sensitivities, you know, just because of it. Just like we have, like, oh, I got a case of the Mondays, you know, you know, you get a sensitivity to the calendar. So we can kind of take some stuff back by following a natural cycle as opposed to an imperial cycle.
Just not following just a number, instead the moon.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a great experiment. I'm really, really looking forward to it, and then just see how it affects us. You know, and it is creative. It is playful. It is something new. So there's a lot to it. But I'm curious as to what our first sprint will look like. Like, like to get to some the real practicals of like what might a sprint, because I've never done it. I've never worked in Agile, and I've always wanted to. So I'm really chomping at the bit.
Sweet. That's the second part of the agenda. So that's good.
All right.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah. So to fit into the lunar cycle, I think let's just do 1 week tryout sprint, and we kind of figure how to do these things. So let's do. Should we fit in pretty much all the little bits into this 1 week, or is that a little crazy? We start off by doing a sprint planning on Monday, and then
Well,
story gathering. We can do that async. I think we can do stand-ups async. And at the end, we kind of do a action day / demo day, sprint reflection / celebration, crazy Friday.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
so Monday would start there in like week 2, sprint 2, week 2 there in this sense.
Yeah,
the
I would
board?
say, it would, but the only difference is instead of on Monday doing a stand-up, we would do a sprint planning.
Yeah, I
Other
can
than
see that.
It would be pretty much the same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let's do it. So what do we do to get the sprint planning together? That's the one where we get the backlog out. Yeah.
Yeah, and we need a backlog to make that easy. I should have mentioned that one of the things you should not do at sprint planning is grooming or creating the backlog or creating new stories, because people are tempted to do that because they don't want to do the story gathering during the week. It makes that meeting really long and tedious through experience. So that's why splitting those two up actually makes it go faster.
And can we do the the story gathering bit asynchronous as well?
Yeah, you should be able to. As long as there's a place to have conversations around it too, just to say, hey, if we're going to do a 1 week sprint to kick things off, the stories should be really small so that people can finish them in a week and demo something.
Yeah, I'm gonna check the existing tasks, like they don't fit this story flow, like as this, it doesn't go with that flow, but I can fit them into that flow, and they should be okay to do in 1 week, at least some of them. So that should be okay.
Okay.
But what we can do is we can kind of get into a flow of creating these stories during the week. So how do we do that? Maybe a dedicated Discord channel that we keep active.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With the
Let's check on quick question. So
Yeah.
the bounties that we have in dwork right now, are there any bounties that take very long? Are there any bounties that really take more than a day to finish in there?
There may be, I'm not quite sure. But usually most of them are like, just go and take a look at this and write a doc about it. I would
Yeah,
say
so
at most it would take like 3 to 4 hours.
exactly. So I was thinking, so just for agile, I thought agile, I mean, it just from the looks of it, it seems like it works really well when it's like an extended project, like app design or like UX design and stuff like that, where there's constant feedback and then you work on the feedback and stuff and stuff. But with our dwork bounties, I think whenever the bounties have gone above a specific percentage, we should have like a booster session. This booster session, you'll be paid 15% more on these bounties, and you all come together, and there's only a three-day period. All of us come together and do these bounties, as many as we can, because I feel like most of them are general bounties that most people can do. So it'll also be like a community building plus like working session is what I was thinking for smaller works, like 3-4 hours work.
So in these sessions, a group of people come together and work on the same bounty, or a group of
on separate bounties. They all pick each bounty and they just work together so that, you know, we see each other's progress and like we try to like make the most of it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty sweet. Yeah. Sounds very cool. And we would incentivize it with just extra pay.
Yeah, just for 3 days, like, so you'll have to like complete as many as you can in that, like, you know, whatever, 3-4 days, depending on whatever.
Yeah, I think that sounds very, very good, because it would allow us to kind of get a little more urgent ones, get them done more quickly. So that'd be pretty cool. Huh. Can you write us a little short description about that, and maybe put that in ideas? And
Sure.
then,
Yeah.
Chakan, you love descriptions, don't you?
I love written communications. Yes.
That's my assessment. Like after some time now.
Yeah, I love written.
And could we is that like the format for these written descriptions are great, but would they fit into like a user story? Is that like an idea format? Like I, as a, you know, Little Fish or a member of Little Fish or someone using Little Fish app or someone participating in Little Fish community, I would like, and then to use like Harsha's, how would you, could we just kind of workshop it right now, like really quick in that framework?
So I'm just a question, but don't user stories come after there are users? Right now, we are just in the phase of like building these documents. Yes or no?
Users don't have to be the end users of the product. They're any stakeholder. So ourselves can be stakeholders if it's a meta thing or a process thing. So you can say, as an org labs member, I would like to have X, or, and then that becomes a user story. And then you have your why, your what, and then people can figure out the how.
Makes sense. So Chakan, would you say the in this case of like the debug stuff, the end users are the stakeholders?
I would say that, yes. In this stage, what we do is mostly for us, Little Fish Foundation, but it also helps out any group that is working kind of in a similar format, which is most of Catalyst, a lot of groups in Catalyst at least. So I would say, yes, we are the users, the stakeholders, all in one. And that goes for the docs, that goes for the app, that goes for Ikigai, pretty much everything we do at this stage. Yeah. How would you guys say we implement the story gathering? Like at this stage, like I know the proposals because I wrote them, but I would like if you guys also read and generate stories. Like they're very open-ended, like which tools are useful to us. Like that's a question all of us have opinions about. So we can create stories together to fit in this general framework. Like I just posted a question today on Ask Anything. Like the question was like, the tools of Catalyst. We're gonna write a report about that. What does that tell you guys? Like which direction we can take that one? Because we can take it so many different directions. So how do we come together to write these stories? Which is the best format to do those? Is that on Discord? Is that just as community suggestions? And then we can just format those and put them in on the work. That's an option.
So it just under the theme of tools of Catalyst, I was thinking of like in that user story format, you can say as a member of Catalyst, I would like a list of documentation or cheat sheet on the Zoom, for instance. And with that, I would like training. I'd like to be better at Zoom.
Yeah.
Would that be a thing?
Pretty much.
It seems. How would you demo that? Would you have to specifically say? Well, then the next one is the what. So be able to conduct a Zoom meeting or to participate in a Zoom meeting.
I think the more difficult part is running those Zoom events. We can put in our collective experience doing these things. Like you guys ran the 100-person event, and then you learned like after 100 there's an issue. Like that information would be very useful to growing communities. Like we're at 25 people in our largest community gathering now. If we hadn't known that, at some point that's going to be an issue, like reaching 100. So
yeah,
those kind of tips, we could collect those. But the question is like, how do we generate those stories? Like you came up with Zoom, we can take a look into that. But how do we generate those user stories and edit them together and then create and put them up on the work?
Traditional sprint groups, there's usually some kind of a lead developer or product owner that their role is to create stories. And maybe we do that here where that's a role. Or if everybody agrees that that's part of their ikigai, then that can be a decentralized distributed thing. But it is a very specific kind of skill as well. And not everybody loves doing it. Like they'd rather have somebody create a user story and then they can give input and say, oh, you forgot about this, or we should actually include this in the conditions of satisfaction, and be able to give feedback. But yeah, so my gut feeling is doing it as a distributed, decentralized mass of people won't be super effective. There won't be a lot of cohesion between the style and the granularity and things like that.
But that theme, like the theme of the proposal will sort of establish the context of all these stories, and then we could have a couple of product owners to create this several stories. Is that's sort of what we can think of? Yeah.
I put just a link to an article because I think this one is a pretty good one that explains how to write good user stories. I can share my screen on a specific section. Right here, like where it says initiative, that could be a Catalyst proposal that got funded. And then you break it up into one or more epics, which are kind of the big thrusts.
Like our modules.
Yeah, and then inside of the module, you'll have many stories, and then each story may comprise of a bunch of subtasks. But yeah, so for each of what's called an epic, that could have a separate owner who is really responsible for gathering all the stories under that kind of area. And then down here, just, yeah, it's like who's responsible as a rule of thumb. It's written by product owners because that's part of their role. But yeah, that's something to talk about in a decentralized group. Like they say here, as store motion, story is written by all team members on the project side. But I've been on teams where we did mostly development work and developers would create their own stories because they own the epic, because it was very technical and there was no product owner. So it's very flexible, but usually somebody just has that role and they can take it for a sprint or two or whatever. And then just, yeah, just the user stories themselves there's some stuff here about the steps that you can read if you're interested, but yeah, it's all about the who, what, and why of what you're trying to do. And usually the conditions of satisfaction are something that just say, this is what we expect the output to be. And that's kind of how you can actually gauge whether it was done or not. So that's how you know when a story is done, is when these things are complete. And I think that's really useful in this kind of a setting too, because then the person taking the story knows what they have to deliver on demo day.
Yeah, with this, clear communication is the key, right?
Mm-hmm.
The format provides us that clear communication and expectations are set.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna read this from top to bottom, and since I've been doing it, I'm gonna keep on doing it until someone says, "Stop it! I'm gonna take that responsibility from you."
You know, it is like community organizations are about like giving an action, and I guess then taking a reward. You know, whether it's like monetary or non-physical or whatever. But what I think this helps us with is it makes the expectations and the clear communication. It's just like, I just want to focus on giving. Like, I don't particularly care. I just want to fulfill the thing. I just want to do a mission and give my effort and work. I think this will help to kind of like, it's interesting because it's like self-management. That you don't have to think about when is it done, what exactly it is that I'm doing, you know, where I am in the process, where other people, where I can go to for support, all that type of stuff. I think that could be a real benefit to a really well, working decentralized organization. Yeah, that could be good. That could be really good.
One thing to help me out on this process though, like I would write the stories, but I would love your ideas on what the stories should be focused on. Just like, oh, we could do a Zoom one where X, Y, and Z is important, and I'll turn it into a story. Like if we could just have a setup of that where everybody can feed in ideas so that I'll write the stories. I think
Good.
we can get going very well with that idea.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Could you bring up the THC's milestones? Because it seems like that's where the user stories could come from. And it would help me. And if you're agreeable, if we could kind of workshop the story writing right now. So that, we got Nori here and, and Harsha and I will probably be working on it. So it'd be cool to be like, okay, let's draw up one of these with the why, what, and I guess how is to be determined by the folks that pick it up. And these, so if we can make 4 or 10 user stories, that would go in the backlog. And then on Monday, when we have a kickoff, we would do that where we pick out the sprint planning, right? Yeah.
Yeah. These are the milestones for tools of work and Ocean Tech. Those are the THC ones. And what we're kind of falling behind on are these. We don't really have much going on in Ocean Tech. And the one we need
And
to
Ocean Tech is
on.
Ocean Tech is the cross collaboration tools, things that are happening on other ecosystems.
Yeah, there is a bit of that. That is the first module, and technology of the ocean is kind of a cross between Cardano DAO tools and other DAO tools. So with this one of the things that I wrote in was tools of Catalyst. So it doesn't really have anything to do with cross-chain, but just Catalyst in general. So this,
as a
I feel
member,
like it may be an epic, or maybe this is the epic and this is the user story. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Nori? Like, does that sort of fit like the way the structure is? Like an epic is a grouping of user stories?
Yeah, so I think the modules naturally fit as epics, probably.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, with that, I guess I wrote this as like one epic, but then we could separate it out to many stories. Yeah, that works. I think that is the way though, Newman, like taking a look at these and then writing stories from these. But as I said, like I'm having kind of a difficulty writing what other digital tools are out there. I'm discovering new ones from time to time. Like I just found out about Sobol from John Buck's article. So we're gonna have a Sobol up. Ada is already working on that one.
Cool.
But I think if you guys are coming across these digital tools and you share them, we can write stories about them as well. But we already have a few already up on the board too.
Okay.
Should we do a workshop on this? Just workshop one story?
Yeah, let's take 5 minutes and just see how far we get.
All
if
right,
you
let's
guys
do
are
it.
agreeable.
Sure. Okay, give me a tool. Let's do that Zoom one. I'm gonna open it up on this one, or maybe this one.
Well, I was even thinking that it could be like, because it sounds like we're trying to collect resources. So as a Catalyst member, I would like to know what are the tools being used. I would like to know what are the tools used in different community groups in Catalyst. Is that, and then be able to easily reference, be able to see and learn about the different tools that are used for community organizations and Catalyst, or
Sorry, what was the format, Nori? Could you repeat that for me? And then we can kind of fit it in. As
The
a-
first part is always as a, and then it's a stakeholder.
Yeah.
And then you make a statement of need or pain.
Or maybe who has this problem on Zoom? Or in which part? Well, what's the issue with Zoom?
Yeah,
Are
so
we talking
it's
about the-
usually as so-and-so, I would like blah, 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 so that. And then the so that explains like how it's going to solve that problem. So it's like person, problem statement, solution kind of format.
Oh, right. So, and then it's really the solution or the win state. So it's,
Yeah. Like what should this look like for them? That is part of what success looks like. If you satisfy this so that, because it could be so that I can run effective meetings, or so that I maintain security of these safe spaces, or whatever that thing is, right?
Okay, so Mhm.
now I get it. Like now user research is really, really important. Like understanding the what do they call it? The mental model, or the problem, like the problems, the pain points that the users are experiencing. Like when you run a Zoom meeting, like what is the pain point? That I run into the 40-minute limit, I run into the 100-person limit. You know, who has co-host? What are all the features? Yeah, that security. And then there's that whole side of like facilitation that's sort of touches on Zoom, but it's not a technical, like to avoid the technical barriers to Zoom calls.
I feel like with these dework tasks on just one tool, is it okay if we go, I would like to know X, Y, Z about this tool, and then do it that way?
And then and then you know, then a user story could be one or more of those in the sprint. Is that's doable, right? But each one should, well, would each one have its own win state, a condition of success?
Yeah, although they might be the same, but
right.
don't want to put the condition of satisfaction in each user story.
Managing permissions is another one that I constantly struggle with.
That's cool. What else on Zoom is an issue? Or what there are some unexpected parts, like how can we reflect that in this? Things like restarting the recording again, it sometimes doesn't work. So
right.
when you're recording, what do you need to watch out for?
You know, how do you when someone is spamming, like how do you kick somebody? Or but then it's like, then how granular, like then it could be, I'd like to know about security, and security would have like sending the right link with the you know, the registration. Ooh, I'd like to know how to do attendance. Like that's a real problem. Like how to do attendance on Zoom. And that may be technical because I think there is some way you can set it up to where the attendance is taken for every Zoom meeting. And it may be non-technical, like to get the right attendance, then you can ask people to do something or take the time to copy and paste everyone or take a screenshot and do it later or whatever.
For the user story, to keep it simple, I would probably I would like to know, as a Zoom host, I would like to know best practices for running a Zoom meeting so that I can maintain security of Zoom meetings and run effective meetings. And then underneath that story, put conditions of satisfaction and then all those bullet points. So that people working on it know that these are kind of the high level things that would be required to be considered a complete task.
I think that is the golden ticket right there. As a Zoom host, I would like to know best practices of Zoom so that I can run effective meetings.
Yeah, something like that.
That feels like a good user story because that's that's a big stakeholder. Like so many, people on Catalyst are Zoom hosts, and best practice is, I think, clear in what we're looking for. And that's like tips. It could be tips and tricks, but it could also be like technical documentation. And then, so here's the thing, like one thing that I just learned about Zoom, because like the screen is really small on my laptop. So if you go to Zoom view options and Zoom ratio, and you can bump it up. Mine is at fit to window, but I can bump it up to 150 and then use the hand to like pull, it zooms in on the screen. So now I can see exactly what Chakan is writing.
Oh, that's very cool.
So that documentation with that little tidbit tip, would that tip fit into a demoable, like, because then the demo, what is the demoable thing? That would be like a document of best practices or some thing. It could lead into like a full-on like PBL module on Zoom.
Yeah, because another story could be create a video highlighting these best practices and showing people how to actually set them up. And then now you have like the written component, the video component. You could very easily make a PBL module at that point.
So like as a Zoom host, I would like to take a PBL module. I would like to be trained. In Zoom, so that I can. And then you've got the what? No. So that I can run effective meetings is similar over different user stories. And then the action is different. So that I can. And then like, because now I'm thinking about like an Ikigai onboarding module so that I can participate in Little Fish effectively. As a new member, as someone just joining the Little Fish Discord, I would like to find all the conversations that I need to so that I can participate more fully in Little Fish. I would like to know when all the events are. And then, could it be that small? Like, I'd like to know when all the events are, and then the condition of satisfaction is a link to the Google Calendar.
Or if that is a user story, it means that they're not easily finding that. So the result could be update the website, update the link tree, whatever it is, to solve that user's problem.
And okay, I get it. I think I get it now, because now it kind of flips it onto the problem. For instance, like one way to tackle that would be to, like, I think we can change that welcome bot to say like give a big long list of stuff. It's just like, oh, you're new here. Hey, thanks and congratulations. Make sure that you read our code of conduct, and then here's our calendar, and then here's
So,
our.
Newman, when was the last time you read code of conduct?
That's because I read the code of conducts, but I'm a weirdo. I'm totally a weirdo.
I never read the code of conduct. I just like
You never read the code of conduct.
click.
You know, but you
IO
can do
paintings
it like if you don't read the code of conduct and approve it, they may not go to the rest of the Discord channel, for example.
Yeah.
Many channels have that, like make people read it, maybe ask some 2 or 3 summary questions. I had a similar experience like some time ago. Yeah, like, you needed to read it with notes in order to pass the
Right.
test. So it would open. By the way, I have one suggestion. As far as the apps go, like since you were talking about Zoom, there is a website called Capterra. I don't know if you know about it. It is where people write professional reviews about thousands of different apps, like pros and cons. Like if you have, for example, a difficult time to see where people got stuck with some some app that they use for productivity and meetings and other stuff, there you can find some issues actually, which are pretty great. Like people get paid to write reviews in there, as far as I know.
Capterra reviews.
Capterra.
Reviews.
Yeah, Capterra reviews.
Top software at Capterra, helping businesses choose better software since 1999.
Yeah, that's it. You know, they used to give gift cards, Amazon gift cards, to people who would write 2 or 3 reviews to different websites.
There are 12,711 reviews of Zoom.
Yeah, so you have a large database.
That's awesome, man.
I think,
You know,
I
and
think,
yeah,
ahead.
Harsha, you go on.
No, I think we should just like mention that these bounties might be easily found on the internet. Make sure you check them before you start from scratch.
Yeah, so, and actually the things that are there, you need to be like, as you said, there are 12,000 reviews, but you need to be coherent, I guess, like what's the latest, because Zoom takes those really seriously. Like I read one time some review that said in Zoom you need to push 3 buttons to raise your hand, and they made it up to 2. Like now you push only 2 buttons to raise your hand, for example. Like as they say, they help businesses choose best software. So it like even companies that create the software take Capterra really seriously. So
meaning that they're looking at this to find basically the user stories, right?
Yeah, that's it. And as I said, like even 1 month ago, maybe that kind of review may be obsolete by now, because maybe the company already updated that feature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was actually thinking of something similar, something piggybacking off of what Donald said. In our case, like we are the users, right? So I think we can figure out our problems. I'm sure we can write down our problems. And if others in Little Fish also have the same problems, they can maybe like or add like a plus vote or whatever. And whoever is the what was the role? I forgot. Whoever is the story collector,
Product owner.
Product owner.
Yeah. A product owner can be the one filtering out these and setting up priorities. It'll just be easier for you instead of you going and searching for stories.
Mm-hmm.
If I can suggest something, like now writing stories, as Nori already said, it's boring sometimes and not a lot of people like it. because it takes a lot of effort, and that's not much, how can I say, value in the end, depending on the person. So wouldn't it be better like if we ask each member weekly to write a piece like of story, and then the product owner actually editing them together? Like that would make the workload of the product owner much much lighter, and at the same time make the story much more diverse. You get what I'm saying? Like, because maybe after one or two stories, the product owner style is gonna be so obvious, and it's gonna be like the same story repeating itself. But if every member contributes and the product owner merges them together, then it may be much. But how do we get members to write a piece of story? Like,
I think we should set up like a format. For example, if I'm facing a problem, I have a specific problem in Discord right now, which is Shakan mentions something, hey, you should work on this. And I get excited and I never find that message ever again, because like, I don't know which channel it was on. Because like, the first time it pops that message, but once you're done with it, like it's hard to find. So if I had to put that into a story, I'd say something like, as a little fish user that wants to work on X and X, I find it hard to find messages, so that Shakan can take this and maybe format my typos or whatever, take it forward.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. So we just need a place to do that. So once you have that idea, you just post it in Discord, and then I turn it into a user story. And that would be a very natural and very useful way of creating user stories.
In dwork, the community suggestions is a really good place for that.
Yeah.
Just write it up, and then if other people agree, they can upvote it. And then you'll naturally see like really important things floating to the top.
And by the way, can these stories be about anything we are using and we are having trouble with? For example, VS Code, maybe, I don't know. Like if I'm having a trouble in VS Code, I can write for that as well.
The proposals are mostly about like Cardano DAO tools and like digital work tools. But
okay, so
for VS Code, I think you can just ask in Discord, and we have many people experienced that can help.
There are some pain things in VS Code. Yeah, okay. Trying to stay relevant, since I'm using VS Code all the time, like no other app.
Yeah. So the way to do this is community suggestions. Then that seems to be the best place to do it. But maybe also
so dwork, it just those so the users share their pain points in the dwork community suggestions, because you'll be writing the user stories in dwork.
Yes. So we could do that, but also I feel like it's kind of useful to have it on Discord as well, because community suggestions kind of feel like you got to fill out the entire thing so that I understand without asking you. But on Discord, you can just say X, Y, and Z, and that's it. It's much easier to do it on Discord. So I feel like
Nori, this is great. Sorry for interrupting. He just suggested a website, I guess, an app that bookmarks things in Discord.
Yep.
What's that? Oh, you're already on the community suggestions? Oh man, I'm already behind.
No, I was just curious if there were bots out there that would do what Harsha needed, and there are.
We have a task for that.
If you react with a specific emoji, it'll save it to a direct message to you, and then it's easy to find again.
What? That's super cool. Oh, we should try to find. This is something. Remember, we started talking about, maybe it was the lunar calendar in the events section, because it's calendar and events, and then we were like, oh, we should bring it over to the org labs. but there wasn't a really good way to do that.
And
Yeah.
you are suggesting like another bot, right? Like if there is such a thing that we can pass on between channels.
Bots everywhere. It's all made of bots.
Yeah, there is a bot about everything these
Yeah,
days.
there's a what was
People
it?
are running out of things to do, and just
Yeah,
what
yeah.
would be good? Like maybe a bot that bookmarks Discord channels. But
I love it. I love it. I made a bot to turn the thing on, and then I made a bot to turn on the bot. Oh man. Oh.
You know that thing that says that the captcha that says "I'm not a robot"? I saw a video last time in YouTube that there is an actual robot, in a touch screen trying to move that thing that I'm not a robot. Yes. That was so cool. Like,
yeah,
that's funny.
it is
Yeah.
pretty good. It is pretty good. Yeah, and we live in a funny place, that's for sure.
Having a robot that turns on the robot.
Yeah, that's right, Amir. I was like, this seems strangely familiar. Did I talk to Harsha already today? No, me and Amir talked about that earlier. Like same thing about like, and especially the notifications. So like a notification in Discord will pop up, and it's like this crazy hard like whack-a-mole game where you got to grab it really quick, and otherwise it just sort of goes away. And then you go into Discord, and there's not any space that says, okay, this is what I just alerted you to. And yeah, things just get lost. Our Discord is getting a little, we looked it over and we're like, yeah, it's getting a little shaggy. It needs a haircut. I don't know when we do that, but the Little Fish Discord it's getting a little shaggy.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Like, I don't use the part that is below stat doc. Like I just use the part that is above.
That's
that
right.
part.
Just keep it on the top. Yeah.
Yeah, but we definitely need a haircut, like you said. Like I just created a story collection channel below it, so I'm contradicting myself immediately.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this framework of, is it pain points that are, am I using that correctly, Nori? What's the antecedent, if I'm using that word correctly? What's the precursor, the thing before the user story? Is it a pain point? Is it a data point?
Pain point or need or
need. Yeah.
And this is probably the ideal kind of group because we're building for ourselves. So we're very familiar with what our needs and pain points are. So right. We're not envisioning some hypothetical user and trying to imagine what their pain points would be, or have to do these user sensing walks with them and watch them do something. We're the audience, and so it makes it much easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's another story. The point that you made earlier, Newman, about why don't we get Discord notifications on the desktop, and nobody can get Discord notifications on desktop. That is crazy.
Yeah. I want to see like a list of notifications that happen. Like I want to be able to say, oh, look, these are all the notifications that happen. But you would think that there is a little spot for it, but it never seems to be. Yeah, I don't know. I need to hug it a little more. I need to get closer to it.
How many channels are you in average, like members on Discord?
Oh,
I'm just curious. I have only 9.
I have 92. 92.
Count?
Where do you find that?
Count?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
I didn't
How do you get the whole count? How do you, Nori, did you get like a?
I counted the other day.
Of course they wouldn't tell you. Yeah. I have
only 9 and I have trouble keeping up. like staying updated. Here, Chaka knows that best.
Oh yeah. So even just categorizing Discord so that you can keep up to date with all of these different channels. There's got to be a best practice around that. That's like another user story. We can
There's got to be I'm looking in Good Game right now.
I have a
LGG.
few techniques I use. I tone down the notifications to only those channels I really care about, and everything else is at mentions only, and I turn off that everybody tag because people abuse that. And I close all of the category spinners, so all the categories are closed, so I'm not overwhelmed by a channel list. Do you know what that looks like? So that only when there's activity in a particular channel, it kind of pops out. So it keeps my overwhelm down because I don't see all the channels going on. And there's like little tricks like that that help me manage the fire hose. I think it's really important to tune your Discord well.
Yeah, we made like a document on that, human. It's in the vault.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we have 2 docs on Discord notification management, but we would love to see how you managed yours, Nori, so that we can update it with that info as well.
Oh, it's the same thing actually.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna create.
So there's a counter, like in the Discord feedback, the ability to see how many servers you're in. So in the story, like as a Discord user, I would like to know how many servers I'm in order to something.
Feel more stress.
Yeah. To win, to like impress my friends,
Oh, yeah. And it's gonna say like you're missing 10 plus notifications on 25 Discord servers. It's like even more stress for you. If there was a button to just clear out all the notifications, is there? That would be pretty sweet.
You can, per server, you can right click and say mark all as read.
Mark all as red, yeah.
Yeah, but
We
when
did
you
that
have
for each
92,
group.
that's a long task.
Yeah.
Ooh, but if you, actually, I just right click on a folder and you can mark folder as red. Watch it, I'm about to do it. Boom, done.
Yeah.
This is fun. Oh yeah.
Of my
Awesome.
90 something servers, 80 something, well, maybe 70 something are muted completely. So I only go in there if I need to check something. So you can mute a server completely if you want to.
Can you mute the notification bubbles as well? Because
Yes, that's why I don't like seeing the little red bubbles. So most of them are muted unless I'm actually called by name. So if they @Nori me, then it'll show up. But
Fine.
I turn off the role and the everyone mentions on those servers.
Yeah, I gotta turn off the roll as well. That's why I'm getting pings. Makes sense. All right. Thank you guys. I think we can cut off the recording for now. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
See you, YouTube.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.